My name is Jake, and today we are tackling number 91 in my top 102 favorite album countdown. And it is none other than Arcade Fire's classic, seminal debut, Funeral. Now, if you are by any chance unfamiliar with Arcade Fire, they're a Canadian band formed in 2001 consisting of 6 multi-instrumentalists, with this particular lineup consisting of vocalist Win Butler, his brother William Butler, and his wife Regine Chasson, as well as Richard Reed Parry, Tim Kingsbury, and Howard Billerman. Like I said, this was their first album, released September 14th, 2004. Dude, just imagine this being your first ever album. I mean, they released, I believe, an EP beforehand, but I mean, your first full-length LP being this. That is... How do you follow that? I mean, they did, but... Wow. The album title, and really the album as a whole, I feel like, was inspired by the deaths of Win and William's grandfather, Regine's grandmother, and Richard's aunts. All died during, or very near, the recording of this record. And I mean, I feel like that feeling of death and sort of the acceptance or celebration even of really, it's not always explicitly stated in the lyrics, but just the general sort of feeling, and I hate this word, but I'm going to use it anyway, the vibe that this album gives off. You know, with the very grandiose production, you know, this is one of the most invigorating and emotional albums I have ever listened to. I can't really find the words for the emotional impact this album has had on me over the years. More so sort of as I get older, and I'm not, you know, a pretentious teenager who, you know, pretends to understand what he's talking about. You really feel these words later in life, and it is truly a beautiful thing. And now, onto the songs. Track 1, Neighborhood Number 1, Tunnels. This is a beautiful introductory track to the record. It sets the tone just perfectly. The sort of guitar-piano combo, it's at the beginning, it's brief, but it is just to die for. This one's about a young couple sort of planning for their uncertain future, and Win is just singing already with such raw, powerful emotion. It is all throughout this album. His voice is just aching with, you know, vulnerability, and really, it fits definitely the sort of magnificent production of the album perfectly. And this song in particular definitely packs a punch. If any of you have seen the film Perks of Being a Wallflower, this is a great, no pun intended, tunnel song. You know, it's definitely, listen to this one if you haven't heard the album and you kind of want an idea of what you're gonna get, because this song just says it flawlessly. Track 2, Neighborhood Number 2, Laika. This, I believe, was inspired by the dog, Laika, who was sent up in space during Sputnik 2, one of the first animals to be sent into space. And I don't know, I love when, like, really profound sounding songs like this are just inspired by, like, the most innocent or random things. You know, it's common among a lot of, like, indie artists I've noticed, and this song right here at least is no exception, and I think it's just perfect. The distorted effect on Win's vocal here really adds to the desperation in his voice and lyrics, and something about the strings are on this song, on all the songs of course, but on this one they're just very sort of chilling, and this is one I could talk about for a while. Track 3, une année sans lumière. The title and about half the song are, of course, in French. The title translates to A Year Without Light, and it's kind of inspired by the city of Montreal, where the band was formed. You know, something about the instrumentation and overall general production of this song, it makes me so reminiscent and nostalgic for this sort of bygone era of, like, when these guys were just coming out, the Killers, the White Stripes, Wilco, Modest Mouse were making it into the mainstream. I I know I'm going to get a lot of people like, you hipster, what? My parents were big fans of all that stuff. So I have a lot of, fond memories surrounding a lot of bands from that time, from that scene. And, uh, it really, I'm trying to find the words to describe this song, but it is one of the most blissful songs I've ever heard. It's like I don't really have any childhood memories connected to this album in particular, but just something about the way this song is, produced and structured, and the guitar especially, the little guitar, I don't know if you call it a riff, but, it's so beautiful. It makes me kind of want to just walk around at night and just sort of embrace my surroundings and whatnot. Yeah, it is just a perfect song. That's the short version of my rambling. Track 4, Neighborhood Number 3, Power Out. This song was inspired by the 1998 ice storm of Montreal, and the lyrics are just completely up to, I mean, a million different interpretations I've seen of this song. Is it a dream? Is it a lie? I think I'll let you decide. See what I did there? This is definitely one of the more rock influenced / faster paced songs on the album. I love the guitar tone on here especially, and I really love Win Butler's rapping. Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, this one's just a classic. It was one of the singles released off the album, and for good reason. They definitely knew they had a great rock song on their hands. Track 5, Neighborhood Number 4, Seven Kettles. This one is a complete flip side to Neighborhood Number 3. This is probably one of the saddest songs on the album, and that's saying a lot. It's kind of about the general passing of time and just the overall emotional baggage that tends to come with that. It's really, I love the stripped down instrumentation. You really feel this one, especially. You feel the pain coming through. It's like, as sort of grandiose as this album is, like all great musicians, the band knows when not to play, and this is definitely one of those songs. Track 6, Crown of Love. This is undoubtedly one of the best and saddest songs written about heartache and love ever. This song is a masterpiece. You guys know how much I love melodic music. This one is probably the most melodic one here. And the strings add such a powerful effect. And the first 3 minutes are written seemingly in waltz. That's just kind of what I'm not an expert on that by any means, but that's definitely what it sounds like to me. And it slowly, very slowly, the first 3 minutes build up into this crescendo. And then the last minute is just, yeah, that's all I can say. I was really hesitant on saying this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. It is definitely one of the best, beat drop moments in indie rock, for sure. And you cannot skip to it either. You got to earn that. Trust me. Track 7, Wake Up. This is not only the band's magnum opus, this is probably one of the defining songs of the 2000s, if not the defining song, maybe. You know, every, every time it comes on, no matter how many times I've heard it, no matter how many times I'm like, oh, this one again? I mean, they have other songs, come on. Every time I hear that, and then the oh, chills up the spine, down the arm. It's perfect. I mean, this is one of the most powerful songs ever written in popular music, I think. You know, I don't see how you could listen to this song and not feel something unless you're like completely dead inside, which I am, but only to a degree. You know, the song is essentially about coming to terms or struggling to come to terms with growing up, and you know, it's so it hits home. It absolutely hits home. You know, and I especially love the sort of dancey come down. I know that's a really weird combination of words, but it that's the best way I could describe it. It starts at almost 4 minutes and you know, you're on this big huge emotional, this is probably the most epic sounding song on the album, or very much so one of them. It like you're on this for the first 3 4 minutes or so, you're just on this like riding this wave of emotion, and then the last, you know, minute and a half, it's just that perfect little outro to the song. Track 8, Haiti. This one is inspired by Regine's parents fleeing the dictatorship in Haiti during the 60s. And she, of course, sings on this one. And I absolutely adore her voice. It, I love it just as much as Wins, if I'm being completely honest. It, I know you could say this about a lot of voices, but it can't be understated here. It is totally its own unique musical instrument. And not just that, but another song on here where the acoustic instrumentation and the stripped back production benefits the song beautifully. You know, I love this band because, you know, they know when to sort of ham up the, you know, the strings and the guitars, etc. Just go all out. And then they know exactly when to just be subdued. It's those are my favorite bands that can ration their portions like that. I I know that's a really, I don't know, I guess basic thing to like praise, but I mean seriously, it makes for such a quietly devastating song, and they're very good at it. That's all I have to say. Track 9, Rebellion, and in parentheses, Lies. This is what most people would consider to be the sort of climax of the album, and I totally agree. This is one of the best songs about defiance and, well, and it is so because it represents that sort of youthful angst without being whiny in the slightest. It's very dignified angst, and oh my gosh, I love that so much. I mean, this song right from the get go, this is another song that has a very steady crescendo, but right from the beginning, where it's would be considered to be the softer part, it just pumps you right up, and then by the end of the song, you are a complete. Not only are you pumped up from the, you know, ugh, my voice just cracked big time, but I do it for you guys. Not only are you pumped up from that, but you're also an emotional wreck from the violin at the end. It's you know, it's not very complex. It's just the, but it's so emotional. It hits all the right spots, all of them. This is a perfect, perfect song. Yeah. Track 10, final track, In the Backseat. This is one of the most chilling album closers I've ever heard. It was inspired by the death of Regine's mother, who died a few years before this album was recorded. And, you know, she kind of used, in the backseat as a metaphor for, where her life was. Just, her mom was kind of at the wheel, and then, she dies. And, I mean, her voice has never sounded better, aside from maybe Sprawl 2 on The Suburbs. But, oh my gosh. This one makes me really emotional. I have no idea why. Is it the guitar for some reason? Could be. Is it the entire second half where she goes right into that falsetto and it just sounds too gorgeous for words? Probably. This song, man, it has that. It's another one of those songs. I've used this term in the past, but it really rings true here. It is one of those songs that feels bigger than music. You never get the feeling that, oh, I'm just, listening to, easy listening, I guess, whatever you want to call it. This album isn't something you can just throw on, you really, is genuinely an experience. Overall, I mean, I was a little young to remember when exactly this album was released, but those of you who were around during that time, you know how much of a game changer among the indie rock scene this was. And it holds up wonderfully. Like I was saying before, just now, this isn't an album where, you can just listen to it and then just go on with your day. You really feel it for a while. It's like a movie that just sticks with you, long after you see it, or, at least a few days worth. I don't know, depends, but really, it is absolutely just monumental, and I mean that in every sense of the word. This album is larger than life, and it is not afraid to wear its vulnerability on its sleeve. That's the magic of it, It's vulnerable and it's emotional and sad and happy without being whiny, I guess. I know I was using that term earlier, but I mean, it never comes across as like, you could say it's dramatic, certainly, but not, immature or angsty in really the slightest. Like, angst is obviously expressed on the album, but not in an immature fashion in any way. I mean, just turn this video off and listen to it, please. And I'm aware that this is a super popular album, by the way. With anything I review, I'm pretty aware of, the audience it has or doesn't have. But just for those select few that have not heard this album, just go ahead and listen to it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Seriously, thank you. If you have anything you want me to review or request or anything you want me to talk about or see, music or film related, drop it down below in the comments. My name is Jake. I'll be back.